The skills for the new Archer Garrison have been revealed. So in this video, sponsored by the makers of Rise of Kingdoms, we're going to check him out and see what he can do. Because although we have seen the broad listing of what the kit does, now we've got the numbers, and the numbers matter. So for CY, and rather than pronounce this commander's name, we're going to go with CY, Archer Garrison Defense. Now, the thing that's really significant about the defense tree is that it will have a really nice synergy with some of the skills we saw on the last commander, and I think also on this one. So let's get a look here. Ever Faithful. For the next 10 seconds, whenever this commander heals a target troop, that includes their own, they also deal 80% percentage affected by their troop's attack of the heal strength as true damage to up to 5 enemy troops. Every additional target reduces the damage dealt to each target by 15%. That is a lot of words, but I'll unpack it for you in just a second. This commander's troop also mighty healed for a large portion of its slightly wounded units, healing factor 1400. Okay, wow. For the next 10 seconds, whenever this commander heals a target troop, they deal 80% affected by their troop's attack to up to 5 nearby enemy troops. This is insane. Okay, so the first time this happens, I think the way this works is that you will get a buff onto yourself, Ever Faithful buff. So for the next 10 seconds, you'll get the benefit of this. So the first time you heal yourself, I don't think it's going to do the damage, but I think this is saying, and I could be wrong here, that every time you heal, you do AOE to 5 enemy troops? Am I crazy, or is that just disgusting? What am I misunderstanding here? I must be misunderstanding something. So there's a couple caveats, footnotes here. The heal strength is basically saying, hey, sometimes you don't actually heal the full amount because you have too many troops already in the garrison or in your army, or you haven't taken damage yet. So the heal strength is looking at what you would have healed if you could have max healed, because you can't always. And also, true damage is not affected by the attacking troop's attack or the defending troop's defense. So you're basically mitigating the defense. This is insane. You look at this 1400 healing factor and you're like, oh, that's low. But for the next 10 seconds, every heal does AOE damage to 5 nearby enemy troops. So this also means that then in the defense tree, you have a talent. That talent does 300 healing factor every time you use an active skill. So that's 300 healing factor that's going to hit 5 targets. And then another 300 healing factor that's going to hit 5 targets when the secondary commander uses their active skill. Not for the first skill cycle, but I think for the second commander using their skill and every skill cycle thereafter, you're basically going to have 100% uptime on this buff. 10 seconds, you should be generating plenty of rage to do this. This is going to be gangbuster. So the synergy here is going to be doing as much healing as you possibly can. Just heal as much as you can, right? Right? Because healing is now damage. AOE damage. Oh, that is broken. Actually broken. So the next skill, this commander's archer units get 30% defense and 5% march speed. And if you have only archers, you deal 10% more normal damage. That's kind of nice, and they're opening up a synergy with smite commanders here, which is alarming. Then the next skill, the guardian skill. This commander's troop takes 20% less normal damage. There's the counter to your normal attackers. That's your new smite rally. If this commander is serving as a garrison commander, whenever their garrison is hit with a basic attack, it is a 20% chance to negate all of its current targets' health and defense for the next 5 seconds. This is the kind of thing that doesn't punish the swarmers. It actually rewards the garrison for being swarmed by punishing the rally, which is powerful because it says, if this commander is serving as a garrison commander, whenever the garrison is hit with a basic, it negates all of its current targets' health and defense. So the current target is the first thing that hit you that is still alive. The way this works, by the way, I believe, is that you always target in order of, I think, when it started attacking you. So I think that's true. Actually, now I'm not so sure. But certainly if the rally is the first thing that hits, that's going to be your current target. So that's easy to decide. And you are going to absolutely destroy rallies. I mean, you already kind of ignore the defense for your true damage, but to make everything you're doing ignore their defense and health, like, that just seems really powerful. But it's defense and health buffs, which also is maybe a little bit of a question mark for me. Like, is a buff a temporary thing? Or is that you can't just be ignoring all defense and health, right? Right. This is definitely the kind of commander we're going to need to see in action to really understand their power level. But I think the power level has been pushed very, 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 very far. And we'll get to why in just a minute, because this is just tip of the iceberg. If the current target of this commander's troop is a rallied army, increase the healing by 45%. Seems good. And whenever this commander's troop uses an active skill, the target loses 10% health for 7 seconds. Okay, so this is actually just getting rid of their health. And it can stack up to 5 times, and it duration resets whenever it ... has another stack apply, I would assume. Okay? So you can reduce their health by 50%, which is gross. That is really, really gross. I mean, this garrison is... it's actually insane. And then the expertise gets more insane. So this commander's troop deals 25% more counterattack damage. That in and of itself is really good. That's like 3 vengeances. Okay. I guess maybe like 2.5 talented vengeances worth of counterattack damage. But if the target troop has fewer than this commander's troop, so I think what that means is if the thing you are actively fighting has less troops than you do, the counterattack boost is increased by another 15%. And I think that means that if you're being rallied and swarmed, and you're hitting the rally, that if you have more troops than the rally, you would have a total of 40% counterattack from this expertise skill against everything. That's 40% counterattack. Bro. Now look, that means you got to microfill your garrison. It's a little bit of a win more situation. I don't like win more on a garrison, but also this garrison is going to be healing itself, which means it's got more opportunity to actually, live through the win more. I really feel like this has very, very pushed power level, and it's hard to assess because of this active skill here. For the next 10 seconds, whenever the commander heals a target, they also deal 80% heal strength as true damage to up to 5 nearby enemy troops. Whenever this commander heals a target. So obviously there aren't that many healing archers, and we need to go look at who would you even pair this commander with. Now, funny enough, we just reviewed a healing archer yesterday, and she has a heal if you make her the secondary. And I have no clue how this buff stacks with the other buff, or if it doesn't stack at all. I would assume that the AOE damage dealing buff is considered to be more powerful and thus would take prio. But it could be that this buff overwrites the other buff, which would be bad. There's like so many questions here, and here's a mighty heal. GG. I wonder, I need to double check. Did it say whenever you heal or whenever you mighty heal? I think it said, it said whenever you heal in that skill, not whenever you mighty heal. So this is one healer, but there's like not a lot of garrison synergy here. Well, gosh, if only there were a way to get garrison synergy, because this whole skill is for being in the field. This whole skill is about being on the map, right? Like there's too much weirdness here. Let's jump in game and let me show you some healing combos that terrify me. If you were in an artifact KVK and you could make Xeno a archer, I am officially terrified. Or the other way around, by the way. You make the other commander a infantry commander. This is disgusting. So you get a huge heal over here, 1,100 factor, which I guess is not as much healing as I would have thought. But then there's another 300 factor. So like every time you heal, you're doing AOE damage, ... That's as true damage. Isn't that disgusting? I must be missing something here. You take 15% less normal and you deal 15% more normal. So there's like anti-smite meta going on there. You got health, you got attack, you got damage bonus to rallied armies, you got an instant proc damage over time. Like, yeah, that's really good. That's really, really, really alarming. There's like so much healing here. That seems crazy. But you know what else seems really crazy? And like, I'm just going to say it, okay? But hypothetically, what would happen with Richard the First? Okay, 1400 healing factor, which becomes AOE as a pairing with this garrison. If you could switch him over to be a archer commander, okay, which you can do with an artifact KVK, he enhances healing by 30%, bro. He enhances healing by 30%, okay? He's got 15 attack, 15 defense. That ain't much. 15% damage taken reduction, 10% counter. I don't know, man. Troop takes another 5% less damage, deals more to cavalry. Chance to slow doesn't actually do anything for you. I'm just pointing out there's some weirdness here with things that do lots and lots of healing. Okay? But we are not done yet. Because a more classic pairing might be a Hera. But remember, this garrison needs you to be all archers to get all of its benefits. So you still could mono troop it, and I think it would be a crazy amount of anti-swarm. I mean, if you think about it, already you've got like the 40% counterattack, plus, I mean, you take less normal attack damage with this dude. You're getting these shields, which are really crazy. I don't know. You got another 30% counterattack over here. Like, you could make a very anti-swarm garrison, which is what this game is all about. Okay. In Kingsland, the one I just played, we were just raw swarming flags without a rally because the enemy doesn't really expect you to do that. And then they're not ready. And because they're not ready and they may not have a garrison that can handle a swarm, you actually just trade positive and burn the flag, which is, hey, look, there's a bunch of reasons why that can happen, but it happens. And I think this archer is setting up to prevent that kind of shenanigan in a very, very real way. The other thing I'll point out, okay, it's like, what about just like a Gorgo synergy? A very basic synergy. Is it there? Well, let's see what she does, right? We know she's going to do some big damage. Taking less skill damage seems good. Dealing less skill damage. Funny enough, the archer true damage does not qualify, I believe, as skill damage. So I believe that true damage is not amplified by skill damage enhancement. It is only, I think, amplified by obviously boosting your healing, but also all damage would enhance it. But skill damage, I believe, does not. So there's some synergy there if you could convert her or the other to be the same troop type, right? Artifact KVKs do that. 40% attack, chance to, what is this? Increase the target's normal damage received. Seems fine. Health boost seems good. Extra smite damage. Whenever you deal smite damage, you deal more normal damage. Yeah, I mean, mighty shielding. It seems fine. Like, there's a lot that you can do. The only thing that's weird about this garrison that's coming in is, like I was saying, every single one of these pairings seems to require another troop type. So, like, what about a pure archer situation, Chess? And, like, bro, I don't know that we've got viable archer garrisons. We just, like, kind of don't. So if we scroll way on town, like, Dido is it. And she's doing skill damage factor. And it's funny because she'll also do, in this case, it's a skill damage taken reduction. It's actually kind of a nice little debuff. So 2,000 damage factor. I mean, that's just not it these days, right? You get defense, you get an archer damage bonus versus infantry, and she also requires all archers, weirdly enough. But you will take less normal damage, which is pretty good. And then whenever this garrison launches a basic, you can inflict ambushed. Target cannot trigger effects from being surrounded. That kind of doesn't matter, does it? If this commander is serving as a garrison, you get 20% health. Whenever the garrison deals skill damage, takes skill damage, the damage is reduced. But even that is like less viable than it used to be because now we have like smite damage and now we've got this archer true damage thing going on. I don't know, man. I don't know that Dido is exactly it. I feel like there's gonna be something really funky with switching a commander's troop type, or you just use the new archer in a not archer garrison, or use one of these other commanders another way. Like, for example, as weird as it might seem, okay, to use Xeno, the power might be pushed on this thing so much that, like, maybe you can do without the 40% of stats and, like, you're fine using Xeno as the secondary, which seems like heresy, but might actually still just be fine. It all depends on how pushed the power level is. And we'll only know that from testing because, like, honestly, until we get our hands on these commanders, it's just going to be very difficult to say. Now, if we take a look at this commander's viability for the open field, here's where things get sort of interesting. So the active skill totally works for the open field. It's a little slow, though. By that, I mean that if the first time you use the active skill, you're not going to do any damage, that's a little rough. And honestly, there's a lot of back and forth in the open field that could make this very difficult to capitalize on. And the second skill here seems good. You only get 10% more, normal damage if it contains only archer units. Honestly, you might be better off just using the mixed troops with the Hera and just calling it a day in the garrison. But okay, whatever. We're talking about open field now. For open field, the second skill fully applies, and it's, 5% march speed. That's pretty slow. It ain't much. And let's see here. If you're serving as a garrison commander, that's when you can ignore health and defense buffs, which, taking 20% less normal in the field's pretty good. And it's really this last skill. If the current target of this commander's troop is a rallied army, I don't think you want to use this in the open field. It does not feel to me like it's been designed for that. It does not feel like it's been designed for like a 5-5-1-1 situation. For those of you that like AOE barb chain, like, okay, maybe you will have a field day with this thing. That is a possibility. And that's a separate matter entirely. Maybe you will 5-5-1-1 this thing and, AOE barb farm to your heart's content. I get it. That I get. But I am very optimistic that the power level here is high. But let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and let me know if there's any synergies I missed. I feel like this language, am I looking at the wrong text? Because, wow. AOE damage. Every heal is AOE damage. And the thing that's really crazy is that, maybe in a year from now, we'll have the sort of combinations of healers that make this busted. But even already in an artifact KVK, I can see this being really nuts. Leave a comment, and if you want to see my last video where I talked about the other archer being released, it'll be in the end screen right over here. You probably want to watch that, because that open fielder, I think the power level is even more pushed over there than it is over here. Check it out.